Yes, another video about Helene Hadsell. Just right before starting, I had this idea to focus on persons like Helene Hadsell. You know, sometimes I add an S to certain words that don't need an S, and sometimes I don't pronounce the S. I'm aware and I know the right words, and yes, I'm French and English is my second language. Right before starting, I was saying that I will focus on certain people that change their life with, call this the law of attraction or quantum leaps or creating their new reality or mind control, because it's all true. And I started with Helene Hadsell, and I have two more people, actually three in mind right now. I want to talk to you about the incredible life of Helene Hadsell because there's way more. The first video was talking about her secret, which is, you know, her winning over 5,000 contests and how she did that. The second video was her mindset to win at life, and then the third video I did was the projection tools she used to win at life. And today we're going to focus on her life for you to understand what she's been through to get there, okay? So that you don't think, oh, it's easy because she grew up in a family that were very spiritual and very into energies, and no, not at all. So I'm here to tell you a little bit more about her life. So it's informations that are coming from Wikipedia and informations that are coming from what she said on interviews, and I mixed those two. I have my notes right here. I might look down, and it's because I am reading my notes not to forget certain things. Okay, so Helene Hadsell, aka, okay, it's Helene Hadsell without an E at the end. I think her real name, aka Helene Hadsell with an E at the end, was born in 1924 and she died in 2010. She died at 86 years old, and she had two boys, two sons and one daughter. She grew up in Aberdeen, South Dakota. And then on Wikipedia they talk to you about, yeah, like they straight up like talk to you about when she was like 18, because there's not a lot of information. But I did my research. Actually, I am going to tell you something she said about how she grew up in her family. So there's a story. She was around 4 to 5 years old, she said. That's the moment she started to see other dimensions. It's her words. I started to see other dimensions at 4 to 5 years old. When she said that, because at 4 to 5 years old, you're going to say to your mom, oh, look, there's someone here, and there's like absolutely nobody in front of you. The mom cannot see it, but she can see through dimensions. Her mom was either thinking that she was lying, or either thinking that she was the work of the devil, word by word. So she said that her family was highly Catholic, and in her grandma's house you could see a lot of paintings about angels and stuff like this. At some point her grandpa was dying. Her grandma said, your grandpa is going to pass away soon and the angel will come take him. And she, I guess, meant the angel of death. And Helen, 4 to 5 years old, she was like, I have to see it. So she wanted to see the angel of death. At some point, well, during the interviews, she goes a little bit into detail about her grandpa passing away, which we're not going to go too much into detail about that. Basically, she was in the same room, and if I'm not mistaken, she was alone in the room with her grandpa. Then she sees her grandpa sitting on the bed, and then she sees a lot of persons, she said, coming through the walls of the bedroom where they were, and their grandpa stood up, smiled, and went with the other persons, and they went away through the walls. Like he followed those persons. And then Helen was alone with still her grandpa lying on the bed. So she saw two grandpas. she was frustrated because she went to her mom. She went to her mom and she said, it's not the angel of death that came to take grandpa, actually. It's a lot of people. The mom said, never say that to your grandma, because her grandma was really believing in angels. Yeah, so this is a little story that she is talking about. And then she's talking about another story. She was 17, okay? And she had a okay, I don't know how to pronounce that in English. Rheumatic fever. So she was laying on her bed for days and days, if not weeks, to be honest. I think it was more weeks. My own grandma had that, and my mom actually had that too. They both told me that you're literally miserable. This is what Helen said. She said that she was miserable. And she said that at that time, she was still bound. She said, I was still bound to those beliefs. And what she mean by those beliefs is believing in hell, being Catholic, basically, because this is the way she grew up. This is what she has been taught, you know. So at that time, even though she was seeing other dimensions already because she was 17, she was still bound to those beliefs. She had a fever. At some point, her doctor said to her family, listen, there's nothing else I can do at that point. Like, there's nothing else I can do. It's either she's going to get better, either she's not, but I cannot do more. And they said, okay. The doctor left, and that night she said she was laying on the bed and she was like, I don't want to stay here. Like, she was feeling like a burden to her family, and she was like, I don't want to stay here. And she was like, okay, if I have to leave this planet, I want to, I don't know, she was focusing on other things. Suddenly there's like a being, and this is what she's saying. She said, there's a being appearing just in front of her. And he said, and I will need my note for that. He said, what makes you think you can die? Because she was thinking like, yeah, okay, if I have to die, then I would like to meet someone, or I don't know what. I didn't really understand what she was saying. Yeah, that being was like, what makes you believe that you're gonna die? No, it's not even that you're gonna die, it's what makes you think you can die. Then she said, we had a conversation, and then he was like, no, 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 no. You came in here to do many, many, many things. You came here on earth, I guess, he was saying. He said, you're healed. And he left. Okay, so she called her mom, and she was like, Mom! And the mom arrived, and she was like, okay, there's someone that just came in the room, and he told me this and that and this and that, and I'm healed. So the mom, she takes off the covers, and she's looking at her legs, because she had very swollen legs because of her disease, so her legs were still swollen. The mom was like, no, it was a dream because of the fever. Like, nobody came. Okay, it was a beautiful dream, honey. It was a beautiful dream. Go back to sleep, basically. She said, and okay, during this interview, then Helen said, the next morning, and then she said, it was 1 month later. So is it the next morning or the next morning 1 month later? I don't know. And 1 month later, she said to her mom, I'm ready to go back to school. Then at 18, she left home to go live in Vancouver, where she worked in a shipping yard. I actually have no idea what is a shipping yard, but fine. And she met her husband, and she married her husband during World War II, which she's not very focusing on how she met her husband during her interviews. She's more focusing, of course, on the projection tools and stuff like this. I would have liked to know more from her life. According to her, according to Helen, and this is what she said in one interview. I watched every single one of her interviews, every single one. Hours, okay? And in one interview, she's saying that she had no school diploma. When she read the book from, I know that it's Vincent Peale, but the first name I forgot, sorry. And it's The Power of Positive Thinking. She said that at that time she had no diploma, and she was like, you know what, let's try, and it worked, you know. She then, after that, like she later in life, she became the Society News editor for the Irving News, Irving, 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 I don't know, News Record. Then Helene Hadsell started entering contests. I was wondering when she started like entering contests. It was in 1948. Okay, there's something you need to know. It's that she didn't win, and this is not what she's saying in interviews. This is what it's written on Wikipedia, but it says that the first 10 years they almost never won. And I was like, it's funny because she's not saying this in interviews. She straight away talked from the moment she started receiving more, which makes sense, but because the interviewers are focusing on that. Actually, when you're really listening to what she's saying that when she applied, and she applied to multiple contests, from one field. She said that it took sometimes few months for them to respond, to either say yes or no, to give the results. So she kept applying. So it took many months. Maybe it took even over 1 year to win, even during the moment she was winning a lot. Yes, she's implying that for years she kept doing this, even if she couldn't see the result yet. At first I thought that right away, the moment she decided to manifest after reading that book, boom. Because I was like, she's a master at manifesting, and she is. But it's a lot of training. I didn't know, and I didn't really realize that it took many years, many years, and she kept believing that it will happen. Before 1964 to 1965, Helene Hadsell had not won any of the big prizes yet, like cars or trips around the world. Like she really, and she said that in interviews, that she really started entering big contests like this later, and she never saw this as competition. I want to talk to you about the night after she read like the book of Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. That night her husband go back from work, and she's saying, listen, I read a very interesting book about manifestation and stuff. And she was like, what do you want? She said, what do you want? And he was reading the Dallas Morning News, and he was like, oh, here, Coca-Cola has a contest and you can win an outboard motor. I want that. You just needed to write 25 words. Why you take Coca-Cola on outings? So she go back to her room, to her bedrooms to focus. She was like, this one's gonna be hard because we don't even drink Coca-Cola. Okay, she closed her eyes and she focused on manifesting, and she focused on visualizing her husband on a boat with his mother, smiling and having a Coke. After that, she was talking about a very specific situation. I think she was still visualizing when she was like imagining her children, and like I think she imagined multiple scenarios like this. She was like, okay, I will become my husband right now. I'm a lone wolf fisherman. Cokes are my silent partners. They contribute. No yakety yak. Only enjoyment when called upon. It's so beautiful. And then she go back downstairs and she said to her husband, I wonder how long it's gonna take him to let us know that we won. And she was talking about the representative of Coca-Cola, because it was supposed to be the representative that was a man of Coca-Cola to call the person that won, and he did actually. She said, I didn't know better at that time but to have positive thinking, because she said this is positive thinking. And after that, you know what, she was saying this all the time. I wonder how long it's gonna take for us to win. I wonder how long it's gonna take for this person to let us know that we won. And her even children started to manifest, and they were also very good at it, and they started to say the same thing. And I was like, this is kind of like a mantra. Like, it is a mantra, you know. I will just end this video by talking to you about one thing, like one small thing when it comes to Helene Hadsell. I'm not going to talk about her life until the moment she passed away, because we don't have a lot of information about that. It's the moment where she started to do more interviews, and she was on the radio and she talked about that. But also in 1963 she was selected as president of a Dallas area writing and contesting clubs. You know, there's people that are like, oh, that's why she won all the time, because she entered that club and she began to be better at writing and stuff. And yeah, I guess it helped her, but to be honest, some people, they will have certain skills like this, and then everyone can have the same skills if they're training. But there's people, they're already there, and if you want to have these skills, then you have to, you know, you know what I mean, like to go up the skills to just go there. And you, for other skills, you can be there already. She said that she once won a prize every day for an entire month when she was part of that club. It's a little story she talked about, so you can go watch her interviews. Very interesting, to be honest. So other members of the club, she said that they would win 3 to 4 prizes per month. The month she won, every day she won a prize. The others from the club, they still won like 3 to 4 prizes that month. So yeah, it's very interesting to just realize that no, she was not part of a family that helped her be in that state and have that kind of belief. She just straight up started to like change her entire beliefs when she was like, oh, I am an energy creator. I'm the one creating my life and my reality. Okay. She focused on that. She just focused on that, on her power, and she started believing in herself. She's saying also that before it was very, very hard for her because she was always afraid. For example, she said, I was afraid of flying, and I was afraid of a lot of things back then. And then she stopped being afraid of flying because she realized that she's the one creating her life. And it's really something that she's saying herself. She not just was afraid of a lot of things, but she was very anxious. And then she read that book, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, and she started to apply that to her life, and that's when everything changed. And still at the beginning, when she was winning a lot of contests, she was still being really afraid of for example, the plane, traveling on a plane, to the point where at some point she won a contest and they called her and they said, you want to, it was to go to Disneyland with her children. They said, we will buy you plane tickets. And she said, can we go with a car or something else, because I'm like kind of like afraid of flying. And they were like, yeah, no, okay, we'll call you back. And they never called. Someone else won, because they were like, she doesn't want to win, like, you know. And she was like, my children were very mad at me. And then I don't know how long later, but she won another contest to go to Disneyland, and this time she flew. She was no longer afraid. So it took some years for her to really let down all her beliefs. Do not think that she right away, and this is what I was thinking at first, but that right away she manifested everything and she let go of her belief easily, because no. And she's not saying this properly, I would say, during her interviews, that it took very long time to let go of her belief. She never said that properly, but if you really listen to what she's saying, then you realize that. I watched certain interviews twice or 3 times. I discovered every time new things and I understood new things. I will do more videos from other people who manifested also. Either manifested, either discovered, without saying too much, either discovered like spiritual stuff, the spiritual world. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, I will see you in another video. Until then, take care. Bye.